What's up, everybody? First and foremost, thank you all for following along the Parawing saga of mine, the beginner Parawing saga. Thank you guys so much for all of your comments. That is always super helpful. I really enjoy our little community, and for those of you who have followed along over the last few videos, you might have seen how I got my Roger Ensis 2 mutilated by a car. What a bummer, you guys. And I've been shouting out and trying to contact a few members of the industry and see if anybody kind of wants to do a promo, and I did get a response. So therefore, massive shout out to the guys over at 777. They just sent me their PT Skin 3 meters, which apparently has a good reviews, and I'm very curious about this product. I'm also very curious about their brand story. Like a bunch of glider guys that accomplished paragliders are starting a Parawing product, so that's really cool. So we're going to take a deep dive into that, do a little interview on the website for all of those of you who don't know standupmagazine.com. Check it out, and for now let's go and unpack this thing. Another thing, for all of you guys who have not been following my channel for that long, this here behind me is the lock and the not so lock of the Lahaina fire, where my headquarters here, where I used to have a skate shop as well, and the Stand Up Magazine, we took a hit by a burning piece of wood on August the 8th 2023, and I'm really lucky that this burning piece of wood didn't fly through one of the windows. And since the conditions are not really that good to go sail around, maybe you guys are interested in a little bit what else is going on around here. This used to be SUP galore. We have some really cool relics here from a past blast. First SIC downwind board from 2014. We have a custom made Sony Hernscheid art board. Sony was one of the multiple winners of the M2O channel crossing before COVID. And this is the place where I used to sit on a table doing daily blogs, analysis on what's going on in the sub industry. And now it is somebody's yoga and dance studio. I am now confined to this tiny little office here with all sorts of inventory left over from back in the day. So if you guys are interested in a longboard, let me know. But now back to Parawing content. Let's unpack this thing and have a look. Alright, so after unpacking this thing, I'm seeing the pouch is really cool. It's got those belt loops, so if you are out and about, you can maybe strap it to your harness waist belt. And on harness note, that's actually really cool. That thing actually comes with a harness line, which I kind of didn't expect, because that's very unusual. So thank you 777 for doing that. Ironically, I just happened to have bought a harness line in anticipation, because yes, you really want to ride with a harness. So that's cool, comes with a harness line. And I investigated the canopy, and I investigated the handlebar, I investigated and flown this thing on the beach a couple of times. The conditions right now with the trade winds are not as favorable as they were maybe a few weeks ago, so the trade winds need yet to return for me to do another video on flying this thing. But for an unboxing video, super cool. And there's a few characteristics that I actually noticed on this thing, and the one thing is the amount of battens. So on the bulkheads, or whatever you want to call those things where the bridles are attached, there's battens everywhere. And another thing that I noticed is the little chambers on the wing tips, so to speak. So with the battens, they kind of created a chamber with an air inlet up in the front. I wasn't quite able to find an outlet, so I'm not too sure what happens if water gets in there. That's going to be interesting to see. But another thing that is also very interesting, that there is a string going inside the canopy tip to tip. So I have not seen that. So it's kind of on the first bulkhead, it is connected from one to one all the way across, and that is something that I have not noticed on the other Parawings that I got to ride. And again, I'm not a glider aeronaut kind of guy, so I'm not really sure what that does or what it doesn't or what it's for. But one thing while flying this thing at the beach was I was very impressed with its stability. The winds were just kind of there again. We're having a little trade wind issues lately here on Maui, but we had some wind and I tried it out on 2 occasions and it sits really stable in the wind. So that's the number one thing. I was like just holding it with my hand, actually on one point, just with my one finger, and that thing just sits nice and pretty right above my head. The material also super light. The canopy, just the way we know it, the material. That is that light material. The bridles are a little thinner, I want to say a little lighter than the ones from the BRM and the ones from the Frigate. They are not as thin, I want to say, as the one from the Roger Ensis, but they are kind of just like in between, I felt like. I also noticed over time is riding different Parawings is the way they come off the handlebar and the way some of them are connected, and that is really interesting to me. With the 777, the A and the B lines, they have like this connector line in the middle. It's hard for me to gauge all of that, and I'm not really a specialist in this thing yet, so just a hobbyist. So I don't really know if how that matters and if it matters. For guys like me, I don't think we have to look into the details too much yet. All we need is basically a stable, upwind friendly Parawing that we can trust, that is easy to handle, that is stable to fly. And so far, from what I've had on the beach, this thing was very stable, inflated really well when you throw it out, and this is really something that I'm going to be curious about. Also interesting is the length of the handlebar. That handlebar is considerably long in compared to the BRM, which is a really short handlebar, and it is definitely also a little longer than the Frigate, but not that longer. So those are all those little nuances, you guys. I think the industry is just trying to figure things out and experimenting around, and I really can't wait to hopefully in the next few days the trade winds kick back up and we're going to go back to Kanaha and check out how these things fly. Until then, see you in the next video.